Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown for the week of February 5th, 2018. My name is Trey, this is the Full Spectrum, this is Silas, and let's go. We start off this week with Seraph at the end. I don't know why he's on the back of my chair, by the way. He never does this. He only wants to be around when you guys are listening and watching. We start off with Seraph at the end 65, not human. The angel sends out these sick talons in this chapter and summons some weird creatures, but you takes them out without any real difficulty. There's this really cool moment where the angel is mocking you and is like, "Your demon powers can't break this trumpet." And then the trumpet cracks and the angel just pieces out. He jumps back a good distance, and then you summons his own wings and follows. And for the most part, it's a pretty good chapter. If these characters were anyone else, and we're going to talk about this again with another series later on, if these characters were anyone else, this chapter wouldn't work as well as it does. But because it's Yuichiro, it works. And so when he starts, telling Asurumaru that, hey, you got to help me, we got to save this angel, and Asurumaru's like, why? Why would we save this? Besides that, I'm at my limit, I can't, and Yu's like, but you can do it, right? And Asurumaru's like, I just told you I'm at my limit. And he's like, come on. Because Yuichiro is a character that doesn't understand limits, and he doesn't understand limits in a way that's kind of refreshing, in that he's not the hero that goes, I'll do whatever I have to do to win. He's going, no, we're going to win. Let's go win, guys. When everybody's like, you can't do that. He's like, yeah, let's go win. We're going to do it, right? Come on, let's go. And so, normally I would be a little upset that the character was, being attacked like this, and was just like, no, we gotta help him. And then everybody else is just like, well, that angel's weaker than vampires right now anyway. Because Mika's throwing a fit, but Yu is such an interesting main character that I don't mind dealing with that, I suppose. Even at the end, when he decides to give Asurumaru his desire, so that he can save this angel and hopefully, some of the other characters, family members, and eventually everybody. It was still pretty nice. It was still a pretty good scene. I noticed that the angel says that Yu isn't human, he isn't a demon, and he isn't an angel. Is he going to wind up being a construct? Because, if he is, that's fine. But there's not, all that's left is vampire, right? There's not much left in this series that he could be unless we're going to introduce another weird race or faction. I don't know. It just seemed a little strange. And maybe the point was that he's not any one of those things alone. He's all of them now, but it just felt a little weird. Next up, we have One Piece 893, Flampe, 36th daughter of Charlotte. This chapter. Katakuri is just wailing on Luffy. And then we find out that moment at the end of last chapter that we talked about and how interesting it was and how it could be a bunch of different things, where Luffy goes, huh? He had gotten hit by a dart from Flampe, who interrupted the fight. She intervened for Katakuri's side. And we also get to see that once Katakuri figures this out, oh boy, he's not happy. He hears them laughing at Luffy for the fact that he keeps falling over. And you have this moment where Katakuri finally has a decent fight. And he's clearly disappointed that Luffy is not fighting as well as he was before. And so then he finds out that Flampe was the cause of it. And he just stabs himself with his spear. And there's this great shot of Flampe flying towards Katakuri. And, she's chewing her gum, and she's got her arms out, and then just a splatter of her brother's blood on her face. And then that's where we go from Flampe's an interesting character to Flampe is the worst. Where Katakuri takes off his scarf because he says that they need to stop laughing at Luffy. If they're going to laugh at Luffy, they need to laugh at him, and that she got in the way of a fight between men, and this was his fight, and he didn't need her help. And the reason he does this is very clear. It's hitting a pride point for him in multiple different spots. He doesn't like it when people laugh at other people, because people laughed at him when he was younger because of his mouth. He finally has an enemy he kind of respects as someone that he can fight that doesn't care about his mouth. Because Luffy's seen it and didn't care. Luffy didn't laugh. And he's going all out, and Luffy has been standing up to that. So it's a pride thing for the laughter. It's a pride thing for an enemy he respects, and it's a pride thing for a fight that he actually got to have. For that to all be interrupted by the shallowness that is Flampe, it makes perfect sense why he's so angry. And of course, then, he brings everything together by taking off his scarf, by showing his mouth, saying they could laugh at him if they wanted to, but to stop laughing at Luffy. And then to turn around and just walk back to the fight. And Flampe here gets upset because she hates Katakuri now, because he's disgusting. And it's clear she never cared about him as a person, she only cared about the idea of Katakuri. And now that the idea is ruined, she feels betrayed and, wants to mock him and get everybody to take pictures. And so Luffy and Katakuri just have a release of their Conqueror's Haki and knock them all out. Katakuri takes off his coat. He apologizes to Luffy, who's like, no, there's no honor between two pirates fighting. It's my fault. I should have been able to dodge it. And then Katakuri wraps his fists. Luffy raises his, and they get ready to fight. And Katakuri tells him that he no longer assumes Luffy is inferior. And it's just like, okay. This chapter, I already loved Katakuri, as you guys know. This chapter took Katakuri and spun him on his head, where he is the same character he's always been, but we now have so much better an understanding of Katakuri. He has been the tentpole strength of the Big Mom Pirates. Past Big Mom herself, I would say it's Katakuri. He's one of the three sweet commanders. It's him, Smoothie, and Cracker. And then, of course, you have Parasparrow is also very strong. But he is one of the three tentpoles. Cracker's down. Katakuri comes into this fight going, you took out my brother, you've hurt my family, you've ruined the wedding, you've ruined our plans, you tried to kill my mom, we're gonna have to fight now. To now going, I respect you. Let's fight. And it's a whole different situation, but this is the same character, and I love that. I saw a lot of people after this chapter going, Katakuri for Straw Hat! I'm going to be the first to say, I don't think there's ever a world where that'll happen. Because there's no way that Oda puts two people with that similar abilities on the same ship. I just want to say, that would be awesome, but it's not going to happen. I would love for it to, but it won't. With that said, though, if Katakuri gets done with this fight and he loses, and Big Mom survives everything with Capone, and all of the world finds out that the Big Mom Pirates were thrashed by the Straw Hat and Fire Truck Pirates, it's entirely possible that, Katakuri could get in serious trouble from this. There's a chance he could leave. He cares a lot about his family, but they don't seem to care about him. So, there's a chance he could leave and start his own crew. And if he did that, maybe join the Grand Fleet. Just saying. Be pretty cool. It'd be a little weird to have members of the Grand Fleet that much drastically stronger than a lot of the others. And also drastically stronger than a lot of the Straw Hats. But hey, Luffy's got to gather a bunch of really powerful people. And I saw a lot of people comparing it to where it could be like Roger and Whitebeard could be Luffy and Katakuri. And it's entirely possible. But this was an amazing chapter. I absolutely loved it. And, I can't wait to see how this fight rolls out. Next up, we have Act Age 3, Scene 3, Stage 2. We get to see Hiragi playing with Kuriyama's hair, and that she seems to maybe carry a torch for him. While we get to see Kuriyama being super excited for a special role that Kay may get to play someday if she can get her skills up. We also get to see that Kay recognizes some of her own problems. She doesn't know what those problems are, but she knows she has them. She knows she's not where she needs to be yet. We see, some conversation going on at Stars about the Japanese movie industry being in trouble because of Sumiji Kuriyama. We also get to see that the next thing that Kay is going to be involved in is a period piece, where she has to be an extra. And we get a really fun segment here of the duality of Kuriyama explaining how these people are, while Hiragi explains what they do, both of which are very important for Kei to understand, and quickly. But the best part of this chapter, in my opinion, is the moment where Kei is supposed to act, has no idea what she's supposed to do. Because she's a method actor, and she's never been in Edo in that time, so how would she know what to do? So she tries to put herself in that role, but can't, and winds up being herself and trying to defend the girl, which obviously you can't have an extra do, because you need to be able to show in your movie that samurai in those days would do some things that they maybe weren't supposed to do because they could get away with it. And to have her, questioning how she could play this role and just watch this girl die, and the director stopping everybody else from saying anything and getting up and telling her that the script is her Bible now, and she has to live by it. It's her job to be someone who has to watch a girl die. And Kuriyama saying that this is the next lesson. She has to learn to become someone else, not just rely on her own memories. It's like, okay, yeah, this is going to be really good. This is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, you have Hiragi telling him that maybe doing this with someone else's passion project wasn't a good call. But, that seems like something that Kuriyama doesn't care much about other people, just about his art. So, I'm excited. This is also the last chapter of Act Age that will be available in Shonen Jump. So, from now on, I'll have to read it elsewhere. But, still, it was a fun run. Good 3 chapters. I'll probably keep up with it for a little bit, see how it goes. Let you guys know. Past that, we have My Hero Academia 169. We get to see some breakdancing from Ashido, and Deku wanting to know if he can do it too. We see some Aoyama trying to dance as well, which pays off really well later on in the chapter when we find out that he has learned how to do the 2-step. Kaminari is pushing Jiro's buttons a little bit, but it's also festival time. And I liked that Kirishima spent some time talking about asking the question of, hey, is it okay for us to do this right now? The world is kind of messed up right now. All Might's gone, technically, and Endeavor's stepping up, and there was all the stuff with Stain, and then all the stuff with Chisaki, and all the stuff from One for All, and All for One. Is it okay for us to have this festival now? And their explanation is that, hey, the sports festival was for you, this is for everybody else. And at first, the class can't decide what they want to do, because they're all fighting over, hey, we want to try this, we want to do that, that seems fun, this seems cool, let's do this, let's do that. And they eventually decide, hey, no, we need to do this for everybody else. We're heroes, we're supposed to help other people, this is to help everyone else. And that was really cool. We also got to see Koda actually have some lines this week, which was really cool. He got some panel time, and that's a lot of fun. We got to see Kaminari understands Jiro really well, despite the fact that he's a massive idiot most of the time. And then, probably my favorite little joke in the entire chapter was Tokuyami's suggestion for the Banquet of Darkness, and Bakugo's suggestion for the Battle Royale. And I thought both those were really fun. The death match, I guess, is what he suggested. But I thought both those were really fun, because those characters don't get a lot of panel time in these down moments. And they got some fun stuff there. Another thing that I noticed, again, this chapter, that I've noticed many times before, don't remember if I've talked about it or not, though, is that every single time Ida does his job as the class representative, he reminds me of Haruki Hanai. From School Rumble, he has the exact same glasses and the exact same facial structure for the most part. His chin's a little bit more round. Can't help but think that this is intentional. Love it every time I see it. Really fun chapter, though. Looking forward to Deku trying to incorporate some of those breakdancing moves into Full Cowl. Maybe we can get some good spin kicks. Even if only 20%, that'd still be really cool. But this was a lot of fun. I'm loving that we're getting a little bit more, time to spend with some of these minor characters that aren't that well developed, and getting to see Jiro sticking the ends of her auxiliary connections, I guess. Yeah. All right, brain. Together was really cute when she got nervous. Also, who's the guy that the video was about to autoplay on? Seems like he might be important. Next up, we have Dr. Stone 44, 100 Nights, 1,000 Skies. We get a nice reminder here that past Senku was desperately trying to think. We get to see some good character development with Shamil, and Byakuya, and Lillian. There were some really fun moments, specifically figuring out that the light started in South America, because Byakuya was trying to emulate Senku and how he would think of it. We get to see Shamil and the others land badly, and how bad that would have been for them, where they would have just died down there. But Byakuya and the others came to save them. And it's a really fun moment where Byakuya has sent a rowboat all the way out, or rowed a rowboat all the way out there to get them. And, Lillian starts singing because she realizes they don't need to conserve their oxygen anymore. This was a really fun chapter. There were a couple things that I was like, on. But for the most part, I really liked it. Those small couple things specifically, there was a really powerful moment that I felt kind of got downplayed, where Lillian is talking about how music and everything like that is lost. How none of that can be saved. Because even if she passed down every song she had to her descendants, it still wouldn't be everything. And like Bach and Mozart and all of that would be lost. And that was a really poignant moment. Because there's all these things that are happening that, are rather important to be passed on that will just never be remembered, except for Senku and Yuzuriha and Taiju and Tsukasa and anybody that they bring back that will remember them, and maybe they can bring most of that stuff back. But at that time with Byakuya and Lillian, there's nothing. That's just the end of it. And Byakuya doesn't really mention anything about it, and it's like, okay, well, that seems kind of important, because it makes Lillian cry, and it makes perfect sense. Past that, though, you get this moment where Byakuya talks about how Senku and he aren't blood related, and I can't help but feel like it's just me. I could be wrong. I have no proof to back this up, so don't take this as proof. I can't help but feel like that this was an editor that pushed the author to add this line, because it looks like Byakuya is Senku's paternal father. Like, he looks like Senku's design is clearly based off of Byakuya. Not straight design pulled, but the way their hair darkens at the same place, the hanging hair. And it feels like this line was just put in there for it to be okay if Senku hooked up with Kohaku. And it's like, it's been a long time, guys. I think it would have been weird, yeah, but probably would have been okay anyway. I don't think we needed this line that feels kind of out of place, and super out of place for Byakuya to just drop it at the end of that chapter. But that's probably the last we'll see of Byakuya ever, so I guess it had to be dropped then. Like, it could have easily been a line 2 chapters previous when we saw them together, of Byakuya being like, I know I'm not your real dad, but just to drop it there felt really strange. Past that, though, this was a really fun chapter. There was one thing that made me go, another thing. I've got my notes here, and I'm just jumping between them like a maniac. There's a moment at the end where Byakuya says that when Senku wakes up, that makes me go, okay, we talked before about maybe some other people woke up too and helped start the village as well. How does Byakuya know they will wake up? Is he guessing they're going to wake up and hoping they're going to wake up? Hoping that Senku will come back one day? Or does he know? Because he uses the phrase, when Senku manages to wake up. Not when we manage to find a cure, not if Senku manages to wake up, when Senku manages to wake up. I just thought that was really interesting, because it leads me to believe that maybe somebody else had already woken up before. But if so, surely Byakuya would have spent the rest of his life trying to bring Senku back. So it makes it feel more like that line has to be hope. It's just a really strange way to word that, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. But we'll move on and I'll stop rambling. Next up we have Food Wars 249, Watching from Beside You. Ishiki has made this brand new Wanmono, brand new type of Wanmono, with scallions and clams, and it's beautiful. But enough about that cultural marvel. It's flashback time. And we get this flashback of Ishiki being the eldest son and having great responsibilities. We cut back to the Wanmono long enough to get back to how Ishiki stuffed the dumpling with minced hare and scallions. That's really cool. It's literally the premise of Jo Ha-Kyu, and they bring that up in this chapter. Because it starts, it changes, it hits. It's great. Then we go right back to the flashback, and it's like, come on, guys, we can focus on... This is a really cool idea for a dish. I want to know how Tsukasa feels about it. I haven't seen him these last 2 chapters, and we get to see him at the end. But this flashback, again, all it did was tell me that Ishiki's going to lose, because we haven't got to see Tsukasa this whole time. We get to see Ishiki tell Nene that, watching her learn to cook, and, how hard she worked for it, and her joy brought him joy, and taught him the joy of cooking, and she looked so cute back then. And with the flashback completed, we get to see Ishiki smiling and telling her, that she's the reason he enjoys cooking, basically, and her blushing, and him telling her, okay, sir, and him telling her that, he just wants her to be able to remember that time when she enjoyed cooking. And that's all well and good. This is good for their characters, absolutely. But we then get to see Tsukasa weathering the blows from Ishiki as the phrase, der weiße Ritter der Tafel, which is just the white knight of the table, is used again as Tsukasa's title. And the weathering is on his armor, because he's the white knight of the table. But the symbolism's right there. When der weiße Ritter der Tafel is just damaged, like he's not even dented, he's just scratched from Ishiki's best assault, it's very clear who's winning this fight. Very, very clear. Next chapter, I assume, we'll get to the start of Tsukasa's dish, and the chapter after that, Ishiki will have lost. Next up, we have Robot Laserbeam 43, Last Day of the Daizon Open Part 19. Before we get to anything else with this chapter, I'm very upset about one thing. Viz has made a single mistake, and that one mistake bothered me this whole chapter. The sign says Daizon Open, but with a Y instead of the AI. The reason this bothers me is because I think the word Daizon spelled with the Y looks way cooler. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh man, that's all I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of this chapter now. Other than that, this was a fun chapter. Robo shot low, using the 120% laser, hits his target, was the billboard floating in the water behind the green, lands on the green in regulation, everybody's super hype. Shosato takes off his cap, shrugs, Dorian laughs, Robo wins. The spies are like, man, he's something, isn't he? And then we get told, immediately after this tournament's over, there's going to be another tournament. It's starting next week. 32 of the toughest players around, the Vermilion Bird Match Play Championship. I don't have a problem with back-to-back tournaments. I really don't, especially because a week in the manga could be like 4 chapters from now. But if we go from the end of this tournament to the start of the next tournament, next chapter, that is far too quick. You're moving too quick outside tournaments, too slow inside tournaments at that point. We gotta slow it down a little bit. Because we only know, like, 12 professional golfers at this point. And obviously this one will bring us back Suzaku, and we'll get to see all the others that we know of, Rion and Kurasama and all them. But we definitely don't know 32. And so, are they going to be introduced Lightning Blitz style, or are we going to get a little bit more time before the tournament starts to get to meet some of these characters? Are the 32 of them even going to matter, or is it going to come down to that 12 that we mentioned earlier? Maybe with a couple new people, especially the spies that we saw. It feels a little quick to be jumping into another tournament right away, especially with how slow this tournament felt. And to go from the end of the toughest hole to just skip the last 2 holes, Yes, thank you, first off, because we needed to skip past the Daizon Open. But at the same time, how often is that going to happen, and how often is it just going to be Robo unlocks the laser and makes the shot? Is that any different from other shows or other series where, all... Why did all the lights just go out? Alexa, turn the lights on.
Okay.
There we go. Lights are back now. That was interesting. But is that going to be any different, really, I suppose, from, enemy shows up, beats up some of the friends, Goku shows up to Kamehameha? Probably not. But we've seen some really cool and really sick stuff already with Robot Laserbeam, and I really don't want it to just become Robo uses his special ability and wins every time. Although this time, to be fair, it was pretty cool hitting the billboard and bouncing it off there. But we'll see. Next up, we have Hunter x Hunter 372, Disappearance. The Ninth Prince men are emitting a large aura, and Kurapika wants to speak to them after class. Gotta stay late. Made some mistakes. We get to see Hanzo and Bisky again, and that's cool. And they're concerned about the Nin Beast changing. And we get to see Hanzo use Doppelganger to sneak out and do some recon. And we're told specifically, because remember, with Nin, abilities get more powerful or less powerful depending on the conditions around them. We're told specifically that the way that it works is that if anyone touches him, his actual body, or if anyone speaks to his actual body, he comes out a Doppelganger. He has to be within 20 meters, he claims, when he is talking to the prisoner later. This pays off in a weird way when we find out that his body and Bisky are both gone, and that he's face-to-face with a Nin Beast later on. And that makes me go, okay, well, do Nin Beasts count towards that if anyone touches it, since they're made out of Nin? Or is it, maybe somebody else has an ability that lets them move bodies without touching or speaking to them? Those are important things that hopefully don't just get brushed under the rug that we need to remember. Also, Bisky's real tough. So it had to be something that got her while she was asleep, if she even fell asleep, to be able to get her away from there in the first place. Regardless, while all this is going on, Hanzo takes out the murderer, makes it look like a suicide, which works against Kurapika's goal, while also working for Kurapika's goal. Because with the assassin taken care of, Kurapika can be a little bit easier, and not have to worry quite as much. But at the same time, he also wanted to know why, and that assassin's now dead, thanks to Hanzo, so that information isn't coming. We also get to see Yuriha and, I didn't write his name down. Well, alright then. The third Prince's Guard, whose name I thought I had written down, but I don't have it in my notes, discussing an alliance, and they do come up with one. They make an alliance between the three of them, the 14th, the 9th, and the 3rd Princes. And the chapter ends with Camilla wanting to kill Benjamin. We are slowly progressing in this arc, and we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. The Nin Beast changing is a really good showing that the arc is moving forward, because with the death of Momose, even if the princes aren't aware of it, the Nin Beasts are, which means we're getting more of the connections, and that's pretty cool. So we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have Black Clover 143, the Wizard King versus the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. Okay. So, the scar is born from a curse. It was a curse made on a human, so it doesn't affect Licht. That's why the scar goes away. Sure. I mean, at this point, I'll buy just about anything when it comes to Licht. He uses light magic, of course, which he claims is the only thing that can oppose the time magic from our friendly Wizard King. And this is a weird fight. This is a really weird fight. It gets very... It's tough to say because the show is a shonen series. Like, Black Clover is a shonen. But it gets very, tropey, maybe is the right word. And tropes are normally not something I have a problem with. But most of this fight is just people teleporting behind each other. It's not even really a fight, this chapter. And granted, maybe things will be different next chapter, but it just kind of feels like, Licht gets behind Julius, and he gets a hit on him, and Julius rewinds it while talking about how his ability lets him steal people's futures, that he's stolen a lot of futures, but it's been a while since he's been in a fight. He rewinds his own wounds, and then reads the future, so when Licht tries to get behind him again, he winds up behind Licht, and he just makes the comment after he knocks him away that he's already seen his future, and Licht is not winning this one. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, that's a line that makes sense. But if this fight is just going to be people being behind each other constantly, then that's not going to be that interesting. And honestly, with these two characters, neither would just a bunch of beam spam. I want to see, like, the moment where Licht destroys the castle. Like, that's a really cool moment for this fight. And I think it would have been really cool to see Licht, like, bouncing off the rocks and sending them careening in a bunch of places, so that Nova Chrono had a hard time keeping up with where Licht would be, because he was trying to follow the future of all these rocks as well. Like, that would have been really cool. And it just, I don't know. We'll see. This fight did not do much for me, this chapter. And I really don't like Licht now. Like, this reveal has made me so salty on him. And I'm going to try and be super unbiased, but that bias is creeping in, and it's not a good one. Next up, we have We Never Learned 49. The only thing that engenders X is when an elder experiences a close call. Have a teacher barbecue. And when Kurisu walks away, a series of unfortunate events that could only happen in anime and manga happen to her. A crab cuts off her swimsuit, and the wind and the waves seal it away. Sure. I mean, last chapter I watched a dolphin steal a swimsuit. Sure. By this point, the universe itself is trying to get Yuiga naked with these girls. So, Yuiga tries to lead her around to the changing rooms, and he's having a real hard time because he can't really look at her, but he needs to make sure she's okay. So he's just like sneaking peeks, and she steps on a sea cucumber and trips, which makes Yuiga fall as well because she falls into him. He breaks his glasses in the process. That's pretty interesting because then he has an even harder time seeing, and it means that he's having to imagine more, and looking at a girl that's not wearing a top, while you're trying not to focus on that, while you're also trying to see by, opening your imagination to help fill in the blanks, it's not good for him. And he tries to remember some historical dates to make himself feel better. He buys her a school swimsuit on accident, because he can't see. And she gets a little upset when he compliments her figure, because she's worried about how tight it is, and, she doesn't appreciate that comment right now. Over the way, they wind up talking about the barbecue, and Yuiga tells her she needs to rile on others more, while accidentally reminding her of how much he's helped her in the last couple weeks. She smiles at this, and Yuiga notices it, and tries to get in closer to see if she did smile, which makes him far too close to her while focusing, and she freaks out a little bit. She gets changed, gives him a ride to get new glasses and a new shirt. I think spends some of his lifespan. This was a really fun chapter. I enjoyed a lot of it. It was a Best Girl chapter, so of course I did. But past that, this chapter didn't focus as much on gags. I mean, there were a few, like the other teachers wanting to see Kurisu in a swimsuit, the crab and the wind, and the sea cucumber going, ha-ha! And the waves going shashmoosh every time in the background. Like, there was a lot of little gags that were a lot of fun, but what this chapter really focused on was Kurisu and Yuiga's relationship, and how the two of them have gotten closer over time, and I thought that was really fun. It really spoke volumes that she didn't want to be with the other teachers because she's not a big fan of competition, or she enjoys competition, but she's not a big fan of socializing. But she was honestly seemed to be enjoying herself for most of the time that she was with Yuiga. And I think that's really interesting that they've gotten that close now. We'll see how that changes as time passes and what events come from that. But, it was fun regardless. And Azumi still has Yuiga's shirt. So maybe he'll get that shirt back someday. Probably not. Probably not. Next up, we have the Promised Neverland 73, Rallying Up. James Rattray was betrayed by his brother, Peter Rattray, who pretended to agree with him so that he could get his brother killed. And granted, they never found the body. It's possible that James Rattray is still alive out there, but I doubt it. If he is, that could be a cool return, like towards the end of the series. Maybe he's at that experimental farm that we find out about in this chapter. But Peter then turns Goldie Pond into a demon hunting ground with Lord Bayan's help. And we find Emma and Lucas digging around inside that cupboard, and they find in that drawer nothing. It's completely empty. But behind that is a cap for the pen, and when they put it on there, they get all the information they've been looking for all at once. Which is a little weird about the 7 walls and the experimental farm. And sure, okay, alright, I guess we got a lot more information now. Emma seems a little concerned about this information too, but she's waiting until she gets back with Ray to talk to him about that. It's almost time for, everything to begin for the next hunt, and they have to move that night to stop anybody else from dying. It'll be time to jump and attack. But there's a really interesting moment here where Emma asks Lucas about if he lied to the kids, and Lucas is like, yeah, I did. Because I didn't want them to kill themselves. And it makes you go, how many kids did he watch kill themselves with weapons he gave them? Because they thought there was no hope. It's no wonder Lucas is such a dark and mysterious figure. He's carrying the lives of all these kids in his hands and having to let kids die every hunt because they can't possibly save them all. Man. I still think there's more to his relationship with that man than we know, but I'm very excited for the two of them to meet back up again. And we end this chapter with a really interesting thing, which is that Adam is repeating a number, and it's Norman's number. Now, obviously, Adam isn't Norman because those timelines don't line up. They say that Adam's been there for a long time. Norman was only taken a little, 3 months, 6 months before the other kids left the farm. So there's no way that's Norman. But you then have Adam just constantly repeating this number. And it makes me think that maybe he and Norman are related. Maybe he's Norman's brother or something. And before they took his brother away, because remember, we'll find out that Adam was a part of one of the standard farms before he escaped. And so it makes me wonder or before he was brought here, to Goldie Pond anyway. It makes me wonder if maybe Adam watched Norman get taken away, and before they took him away, they stamped that number on him. And so Adam remembered that number so that he could find his brother one day. And with his messed up psyche, that's all he could focus on. It's entirely possible. We'll see. I'm interested either way. But this was a really good chapter. Peter Rattray, if you're still alive, boy, you got some stuff coming to you. But the last chapter we're going to talk about this week is Blue Exorcist 98, Beyond the Snow, Part 7. And remember at the start when I talked about very standard shonen tropes, and that if you wasn't you, it wouldn't work as well? I spent half this chapter being like, okay, alright, here we go. It's Ichigo and Hollow Ichigo all over again. Now, it pays off, so don't think I'm hating on this chapter yet, because it pays off. But everything to do with Ren crumbling into dust because his body can't withstand the perfect flame, and then revealing that he just barely can, and the demon heart revives him, Shemi being really upset as he's reviving because she doesn't know what's going on, And then when he does revive, she says he's hot, but not in the good way. He's literally hot. He's burning up, and he's reveling in his new power. And we find out this is his demon side, this is the killer side, this is the power side. And there's this really fun moment where Shiemi creates a forest, and Rin's like, Shiemi, did you do this? I want to burn it. And we get to see, everybody stand up to Rin and try and call out to him. And we get to see internal Rin, good Rin, fighting evil Rin. And Hollow Rin is all like, this is the power that you've been holding back all this time, and I'm going to use it to destroy everything, and your friends would understand. They want to see you happy too, right? And this makes me happy. And Rin is just like, no, I don't know. And he's like, what do you care? You've been holding back the past all this time, haven't you? And Rin's like, that's why Yukio left, because I've been holding back the past. And just decks him. And it's real good. It's real good, because for a long time it felt like it was going to be Ichigo versus Hollow Ichigo again. And although that segment was really cool, where Ichigo's on the side of the building, and Hollow Ichigo's on the side of the building, and they're fighting, and they're having the conversation about how the king rides the horse, and the king sits the throne, and now he's the horse, and Zangetsu's the throne, and, maybe the horse can be king one day too. That was all really cool, but it's been done quite a bit since then as well. And to see this start to take that path, I was like, oh no, here we go. But Rin does what everybody should do and just decks his evil self. I was like, yeah! After that, though, I got super upset again. Because when Rin knocked himself out, literally, and Mephisto picks him up, when he wakes up, Mephisto is like, hey, how's it going? And Rin's like, I want to know the truth. Mephisto's like, sure, I'll tell you the truth. And I go, wait, hold on a second, Mephisto. You told Yukio no. You told Yukio you couldn't tell him. Why are you going to tell Rin, though? That's not okay, Mephisto. Yukio betrayed everybody. Yukio went and did all this terrible stuff. He was the cause of everything that happened at the end of this arc here. And he hurt a bunch of people a lot. He tried to kill himself because you wouldn't tell him information. And Rin wakes up and you're just like, yeah, sure, I'll tell you. What do you want to know? And I get it. You've been working with the bad guys and the good guys for a long time. I get it. You're on your own side, and you have a specific goal you care about, and Rin is more important to that goal than Yukio. But just sit the brothers down and go, okay, look, here's what you need to know. Just feels like that whole end of that arc could have been avoided, where Yukio is now just power hungry for no reason, and granted, if that had happened, we would have lost that really cool moment where he does try to kill himself. But, man. Come on, Mephisto. Won everything off this week with a lightning round. Seraph of the N65, not human. I'm going to give it a thumb up. There was some fun stuff in here. I enjoyed quite a bit of it. The weird monsters at the Angel Summit were kind of strange and didn't really get much explanation. Felt like we've seen them before, too, so maybe I just forgot something that was important. But the talons were sick. And then that moment where the angel's like, you can't do anything to my horn, and he cracks it, and the angel just goes, that was really cool. So one thumb up for sure. One Piece 893, Flampe, $36 at Charlotte, 2 thumbs up. Amazing chapter. Katakuri, real man, a fight between real men. Such a good chapter, man. That moment where he stabs himself, pulls off his scarf, and is like, if you're going to laugh at anybody, laugh at me. It's like, yes! Such a good chapter. Act Age 3, Scene 3, Stage 2. Pretty good chapter. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing how Kay has to deal with, becoming someone else and watching someone else die and not doing anything about it. That seems pretty interesting. One Piece 169, My Hero Academia 169. I forgot to write down the subtitle for this one. My Hero Academia 169, the Culture Festival. Loved everything to do with this chapter. 2 thumbs up. This was a really fun chapter. A lot of minor characters got to show their stuff. We got to see Jiro being pretty cool. We got to see Kaminari being pretty cool. And we got to see some really fun stuff with everybody else. So, Haruki Hanai, Tenya Ida, 2 thumbs up. Dr. Stone 44, 100 Nights, 1000 Skies. I'm going to give this one thumbs up. It was a really fun, one thumb up. There's not a plural there. It's a really fun chapter, but it left me with some questions and some questionable decisions. And, we'll see how it goes. Looking forward to the next chapter when we get Senku back in full form. Food Wars 249, Watching from Beside You. I'm going to give this one a dead even. I thought that everything to do with the brand new type of Wanmono was really cool. I thought that spending time in this flashback was a mistake, although it's a good flashback. And then getting to see Tsukasa at the end as their Vice-Ritter der Tafel. It's like, yeah, sure, okay. My pronunciation's still a little rough. I'm still learning German, guys. You gotta give me some slack here. I didn't expect a German class today. But, this was a fun chapter, I guess, regardless. Mostly because I'm looking forward to the smackdown that Tsukasa's going to give next chapter. Next up, Robot Laserbeam 43, Last Day of the Daizon Open Part 9. I'm going to give this one a dead even as well. There were some really cool moments in this chapter. I really loved the moment where Shiosato takes off his cap and shrugs. Like, I don't know why that moment stood out to me so much, but him admitting defeat that way was really cool. But I'm also really worried about what this means for the future of this manga. So, we'll see. Hunter x Hunter 372, Disappearance. I'm going to go ahead and give this one dead even as well. There was some cool stuff with Hanzo. There was some not so cool stuff. Especially the stuff with, Camilla wanting to go kill Benjamin. What's the point of that? She's not going to get there. Somebody's going to take her down before then. Because as long as nobody sees it, there was no crime. I don't know. I still don't like the Nin Beast arc that much. There was some fun stuff, though. So dead even. Black Clover 143, the Wizard King versus the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, one thumb down. This fight was not that interesting to me. I didn't really enjoy anything to do with the fight so far. Maybe next chapter will be different, and I really still don't like Lich that much. Lich is just not that great. He's not that intimidating of a villain, and he's kind of just a guy who uses light powers that hates humanity. Specifically the humanity of the Clover Kingdom. I mean, there's 3 other kingdoms, and they're not important, I guess, but I don't know. We Neverland 49, the only thing that engenders X when an elder experiences a close call, one thumb up. This was a really fun chapter. There was a lot of fun gags, but mostly I enjoyed that it spent time focusing on how far the characters had come, and I really liked that. Promised Neverland 73, 2 thumbs up. This was a great chapter. Very much looking forward to what's going on. Want to know what's going on with Adam. Super happy they got all that information. Now we know about Peter Rattree. We're learning so much about the world, and I'm ready to get to the big climax of this arc where we're going to have Luvis showing up, and we're going to have some really fun stuff there with that man and Ray showing up as well. And then Blue Exorcist 98, Beyond the Snow Part 7. This one's getting a dead even from me. I thought the moment, it would have been 2 thumbs up for sure if we just had that Ren punch. Because the moment where Ren punches himself to knock himself out of it, and is like, I should have asked these questions a long time ago. I'm such an idiot. It's my fault Yukio's like this. I'm going to find out this information, then I'm going to go share it with Yukio. That's really cool. But Mephisto just being like, yeah, I'll tell you. I wouldn't tell your brother, but I'll tell you. It's like, okay, man, come on. Come on. So that does it for this week. We went really long this week, but we had some weird interruptions. But my name has been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Check us out next week, and remember to always enjoy the full spectrum of what Jump has to offer. And don't forget to tell me what you thought of this week's issue of Shonen Jump in the comment section down below.